All right, welcome everybody. Today is August 25th, 2026. The time is 4:00 p.m. and we are convened as the Provo City School Board of Education, meeting at 280 West, 940 North in Provo, Utah. We will begin with a roll call. I'm Jennifer Partridge, Board President.
Gina Hales, Board Vice President.
Melanie Hall, Board Member.
Meg Van Wagenen, Board Member.
Malakula Saw, Student Board Member.
Shia Ward, Student Board Member.
Emily Harrison, Board Member.
Terry McCabe, Board Member.
Devin Daly, Business Administrator.
And online, go ahead, Wendy.
Wendy Dow, Superintendent.
Okay, and we want to thank Wendy, who's not feeling well, but for still joining us today over Zoom. Thank you, Wendy. And Board Member Boyce is on her way, so she will be here soon. Do we have we want to welcome everybody else who's here with us today. Is there a motion to convene our study session?
I move we convene our study session.
Motion made by Board Member Van Wagenen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Harrison. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now in our study session and we are going to begin with our board member training by Board Member Harrison. So we'll turn to you, Emily.
Okay, so my assignment was to go over the school board professional governance standards. And I'll just go quickly over the ending part. We're supposed to be advocates, we're supposed to be accountable, we're supposed to be knowledgeable, collaborative, engaged, and respectful. And then it lists 9 things that are duties of the school board, and I made a little acronym if anyone would like it. So, and I kind of summarized here. So there's 9, and I did 7, so kind of put them together. So the acronym is ASSURE, AASHORE. So A is approve budgets, the other A, adopt policy, S for set clear expectations, H for hire superintendent and business administrator, O for oversee the district plan, R for reports as needed, and E, establish district goals. So if you want one, I'll hand you a little sticky note. That's it from me.
Terry, amazing. Terry, can you say on the recording that?
Lisa joined us at 4:03 p.m.
Okay, that's fun acronym.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It took me a while, guys. I had to really come up with some options, so yeah.
But sure.
There we go.
Sure, I love it.
Uh-huh.
Fun spelling. Sure. Okay, thank you. Always good to be reminded of our responsibilities, our duties. I was just working with another school district in my capacity on the School Board Association in the state, and they were looking for some ways to improve and do some things differently, and they loved our idea of doing this, and so they said they started implementing this, and are really looking forward to having these moments at the beginning of their meeting. So wonderful. Okay, next is item 5. We are going to talk about some student travel requests, and we are going to start with Provo High School's cheer to California. So we're going to call up the director, Megan, to come up to the front. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. Do you want me up?
Yeah, we'll have you up by the screen. And then if you just want to explain to us about your trip and purpose behind it and all of that.
So I'm Megan Galbraith. I'm with Provo High Cheer. This is my 3rd year coaching at Provo High. This is our 4th year. We're trying to go to nationals in Anaheim, California. So every year our team just gotten a little better and plays better. So we're hopeful for the opportunity to get to go. It's been a great opportunity for our teams to be at a national level. We've competed at regional levels for lots and lots of years, but at that national level we get to kind of see lots of different teams from other states. We get to cheer on our fellow Utah teams, which is really awesome. We get to just learn as we watch the other teams. Our trip is planned for the 17th to the 21st. So we would just be missing that Thursday and Friday. We would leave after school on the Wednesday.
And February, right?
Yeah, February. And then we would be back on the Sunday. So we'd have 2 days of competing and then 1 free day for that. So do you guys have any additional questions for me? Anybody?
Yeah. Any questions from the board or comments?
Is it, it's cheaper to go on a charter bus than to like fly down with Breeze or something?
One issue we've
Out of
run into
Provo?
with flying out of Provo is canceled flights with weather. So this happened to Timpview last year. Their flight got canceled and they missed half of their competition. They had to reroute them through Salt Lake and spend a bunch more money that they weren't planning on. So that's one issue we run into, and then paying to ship all of our props. With cheer, we have tons of signs and palms, and so Allegiant, you have to obviously like pay for extra luggage. So that's another issue we run into with cost, is having to pay to ship all of our equipment. And then when we're down there, we don't have to pay for, if we do take a bus, we don't have to pay to be shuttled from the airport to the hotel and all of that. Another issue too with Anaheim that time of year, it usually rains a lot. So if they're walking to the convention center and the hotel, they're having to take all their stuff, all their props in the rain. So that happened my first year I went. All these teams were just drenched on carrying all their stuff. So the bus is nice for that reason as well as weather. Then the bus driver can just drop us right off right there instead of having to carry all of our totes of props. So yeah, with cheer it gets a little tricky when you have all of your game day stuff with you. But yeah, we're definitely still looking into both options. But yeah, Provo has a tendency to cancel flights with bad weather, and it gets tricky with that. So any other questions? Yeah.
I see that you'll get back Sunday night at what looks to me like a reasonable time, but I am always just concerned that kids will be like, oh, it's been a long weekend, I'm tired, I'm gonna skip school the next day. And
Yeah.
we're really big on them only
Yes.
missing 2 days of school. So what are
Absolutely.
you gonna do to address
So
that?
last year my athletes actually encouraged them on that bus ride home. We tried to leave really early, like at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Last year we pulled in about 6 p.m. We got home earlier than we had anticipated because we were able to get on the road and beat that California traffic back out. And I encouraged all of them to do their homework on that long bus ride back. So I tried to like do that so you're ready to go for Monday. But yeah, last year we got back at 6.
Okay.
So that was nice. Then we could get home, eat dinner, go to bed at a decent hour. So I didn't hear of any of my students missing the next Monday, but so
Gina?
yeah.
I noticed that one parent opposed the trip. If you can tell us just generals without outing anyone, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what the reason was.
Just price. So their daughter does multiple sports. And so it's tricky. And then she also had a daughter do the trip, she was on her team last year. And so she just said, I love the trip. It's just, I'm already like still paying for my daughter that just graduated off her stuff too.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Do you give them opportunity? I saw there were fundraisers like for the group, that are there individual?
Yeah, so our
fundraising
individual fundraisers are those banners, the sponsor banners that are on our football field. So we actually already have, so far, I've got 4 athletes that have completely already paid off all of their fees for the year from doing sponsor banners. We've actually had a ton of success. I think we have over 30 companies that have sponsored our team this year so far already. So that's been super successful. And then that money goes straight to them. Same with our junior cheer clinic, $30 of it goes straight to the athlete, whoever refers them. So that's nice. So the money just goes straight to their account. And we've had over 100 kids sign up for our junior cheer clinic already too. So we've had some success so far already this year in the short couple of months.
All right, any other questions from the board? Okay, we'll be voting this on our business meeting later tonight. Thank you so much, Megan. And next we have a request from the Provo High School Dance and Art, and we are going to have Bryn from the dance company come talk to us.
Well, I'm Bryn Everett. I am with Provo High Dance. Lindsay Ruiz is the art teacher, but she couldn't be here today, so I'm going to represent her side a little bit as well. We're hoping to travel to Anaheim. We leave March 17th in the evening and come back on the 20th of March, that Sunday. We'd only be missing 1 day of school because the 19th is professional development, so it'd just be that Thursday they're missing. Our main goal of traveling to Anaheim is we're going to be taking a lot of workshops there. We're taking one with Timeless Studios, which is a very well-known studio out there. We're going to do some Disney workshops to help them get on that side of the performing with like a big company like that. We're taking Millennium dance classes. They're also a very famous one. We have one in Salt Lake, but LA is where a lot of the professionals go to train. We're going to be traveling with AP Art, kind of fun. Our winter concert, we always combine with AP Art and do like this big collaborative experience. And our winter concert this year is based on the Getty. So all of our pieces are drawing from the Getty. So that is our big thing that Saturday. We're going to be spending a lot of time going to the Getty and learning with AP Art. Going through and seeing the artwork we base all of our pieces on and having that be a learning experience. And then we'll also have the opportunity to see a Broadway show over there as well. We noticed, or at least I noticed, when we went to New York last year that a lot of my dance students are really getting interested in dancing professionally. You don't tend to see that a lot, but it's kind of sparked this new interest. So the main goal of this is to start introducing them to what careers are out there. We get so stuck in this Utah bubble of what's available here, but LA and New York is where these industries are. And so we're really starting to try to introduce them to what does professional dance look like, what's out there, what does that professional industry look like, as well as giving them other art opportunities. Going and seeing Broadway. I have a few students last year that are planning on moving to New York after going and auditioning for Broadway. I have one that wants to move to LA and be a choreographer. So just giving them opportunities to see these different art forms, how they collab and everything like that. So it's a really great learning opportunity for them. It sparks a lot of creative points for them. We had a lot of wonderful discussions after New York, and we're just hoping to continue that with going to California. So, do you have any questions for me?
Questions from the board? I have one.
Yeah.
So the itinerary that is attached, you see there's a little different things between the dance and the art, but looking at the dance one, it's showing 2 days at Disneyland. Our policy is very clear, you only get one.
Yes, I talked to our travel agent about that. She was mentioning with the timing of the workshops, it would probably only be 2 half days. So by the time we get through, I know Timeless is a little ways away from Anaheim, so we probably wouldn't get there until after noon or 1 that day. And then same with Disney, is about a 2-hour workshop. We're in Disney, but it's not like going to Disney. So there are other options of what we could do that second day. She was just worried with workshop timing that we wouldn't get a lot of time.
My concern, and I think we talked about this when we set this policy, Lord can remind me, but it's not just the time, but also the money to pay for 2 days at Disney is a lot, and to ask our parents to pay for 2 days when really they're only spending a total of 1, that concerns me.
Absolutely, and we brainstormed other ideas if, like in the case, because I mentioned that we have the 1-day policy, where that second day we do the Timeless one, and then I believe Art is going up to LA early to do more things up there, so we could move around some workshops. Yeah. So I mean, that is totally an option too. I mentioned that to our travel agent when she sent it. I'm like, we can see, but she had other ideas of what we could fill that table as well.
Okay. Other questions, comments from the board?
So do we need to alter that if that's part of our policy?
We need to be clear what we vote on tonight,
Yes, okay.
Because I noticed in your dance itinerary, there isn't a visit to the Getty. So maybe one of those 2 art times, the Disney time, could switch and you could accompany the art students or
She
something?
hadn't put in the Getty for me originally, and then she put in the arts
that
and
could be a good trade or
Yep.
something if we did decide that.
That's what we were talking about as well. Working on that updated.
Well, while Bryn's right here, because she's probably not going to be here when we vote on it, how do we want to move forward on this aspect of Disney time?
We should stick to policy.
Okay, 1 day then.
Okay, that's great. That's what I anticipated. That's what I told her.
Okay.
As well. Yeah.
And when you have that updated itinerary, you'll get to you.
Yeah.
That would be appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, any other questions from the board?
No, it looks like a great trip.
Okay. Okay, excited for these opportunities for our students, so
Thank you.
Thank you everyone here from Provo High tonight, we appreciate that. All right, next on our agenda, item 6 is an overview of our district focus for the school year. And Superintendent Dow has been sharing this with our teachers. I was able to go to the teacher kickoff meetings, a couple of the other board members were there as well, and just the excitement I'm so excited about it. I'm sorry, Wendy, that you're not here to give us that excitement in person, but we're happy to hear what you were ready to share with us. Go for it.
Great. Bonnie, do you have the presentation pulled up?
Yep.
And are you going to be able to advance? Are you going to turn me?
Do you want to turn so you can see?
Yes, Shauna actually is. I just got a call for food, so I'll be right back.
Okay.
Shauna's going to advance.
Emily's going to turn you. Tell us if you can see.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Does that look like she can see the screen? Maybe you guys can adjust that a little bit.
It's got to tilt. There you go. Now I got it. Yep. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and Shauna, you're doing my slide advancement?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, it's no secret that our theme for this year is Ignite the Magic, and we're pretty excited about it. Well, I shouldn't speak for everybody. I'm really excited about it. I hope everybody else is as well. And I would be more excited if I weren't sick. But next slide, Shauna. So one of the things that we're focusing on this year is how we can ignite the magic for our students and for our teachers, and you can go to the next slide. And it really is kind of two pillars that we want to focus on, both for our teachers and our students. And it's really about building really positive relationships, which focuses on our strategic plan's priority number 2, which is all about wellness and safety. Every student is known, valued, and connected. Our teachers are seen. There are clear feedback loops for our teachers so that they feel like that they're being heard in some of the concerns that they're bringing up. And that we really want our principals to be really deliberate in how they're building relationships with their faculties. And our building leadership teams are really, I think, getting off the ground in terms of kind of setting the tone and the stage for the school and setting the directions of each of the schools and creating those feedback loops. And then the second piece is obviously through Tier 1 instruction, making sure that we have really engaging classrooms that are rigorous, meaningful, students want to be there, but also that our teachers know that their instruction is really good and that they're getting the feedback that they need so that they can improve to the greatest degree possible and receive that feedback in a really supportive environment. I think a lot of times we see feedback as being something that can be really negative, and we really want to change that culture in Provo so that people feel like that feedback becomes an opportunity for all to improve, so we're just getting better together. Next slide. I am going to share some of the success stories that we've had as a district, because I really do believe that our teachers and principals were very intentional last year. And I want them to see that intentionality leads to tremendous success. And I love this phrase of like, we believed in the magic, we stayed focused, and it allowed us to achieve our goals. And so I really believe that can continue as we move on to this school year. Next slide. This slide shows our strategic plan district goals. We shared this with our teachers. We have some bright spots of things that we're working on, and I'll go through some of these more specifically. But it also shows that when we get those growth scores in October, then I would like to come back to the board with our 2027 goals and share those with our principals and with our teachers. You can see that the green areas show where we met our goals, and I think it's always really important to share with our teachers where we had success. And our proficiency targets were to be increasing our percentages by 3%, but we still have a long ways to go. And so there's still a lot of success that comes through our growth, specifically since we do have a lot of students that we're working on them making up several grade levels in a single year and trying to work through that. So if you can go to the next slide. One of the areas of huge success of intentionality that happened both at the elementary and the secondary level is in attendance. And just so that the Board of Education is aware, this attendance focus is continuing through this school year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get later in the presentation. But overall in our elementary schools, we had a 10% reduction in our elementary absences from the year prior, with Franklin Elementary and Westridge Elementary having our greatest success in terms of the decrease in absenteeism rates. And if you look at just the campaigns that both Franklin and Westridge principals and teachers adhere to, just they kept with that momentum, and it takes a lot of effort. I think we have to recognize that it's not just something that happens in September and October. This was something that these principals and these teachers were so intentional about all year long, and something that I really want to give a shout out to our communications team with, in terms of them setting our schools up for that success as they moved throughout last school year. If you go to the next slide, it shows our successes in our secondary schools, with Provo High having the greatest change in their absenteeism rates, followed by Centennial and also Independence. So this again just demonstrates that intentionality that's there. And it doesn't mean that our other schools are not focusing on those things. I think one of the things that's really powerful about these attendance incentives is that they were really focused on the positive. So there were a lot of prizes and recognition, and sometimes we talk about, well, why are we recognizing students for things that they should be doing? But it actually does work, and it actually does help, and we have seen that. You can go through and kind of track Provo High's, I'm sorry, I'm kind of fuzzy in my brain. When you track Provo High's success rates, you can look at all of their social media campaigns, how intentional Principal Alvarez was, just different prizes that were given, just the focus that happened across the school. It was pretty intentional what was taking place, and you see those results happening with their success there. Next slide. I want to focus a little bit on our elementary school. Math was a major area of focus. Last year, noticed that we had a 60% goal of our first through third grade students making typical, above typical, or well above typical growth in math. And that number hit 76%. So we exceeded that goal significantly. And again, it was just this tremendous intentionality. You can also see from the slide, it shows in 2024, we were barely over that 50% mark. 2025 moved to 65%, and then last year at the 75.9%. And even though we're focusing on Senate Bill 241 with all of our literacy goals, math is still a central focus for all of our schools, especially with our curriculum adoption. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think it's really important to celebrate and to not lose sight of all of these places of success that happen, because it can get really easy to get caught up in, well, we keep needing to improve and we keep needing to do this, but we also need to focus on and just celebrate all of the work that went in, and how successful our teachers and our students and our principals and schools were. Next slide. We also had great gains between our with our first graders. They started at 62% at beginning of year. Our goal was for that to improve by 7%. You'll notice by the end of the year they were at 73%, which represents an 11-point gain. Second grade was at 62%, end of year 81%, a 19-point gain. Again, that intentionality, I really do believe a lot of this is because of our professional learning communities. Those grade level teams are working so closely together to support one another, to really look at data, to focus on tier 1 instruction, to be really intentional with tier 2 interventions. And that intentionality has just done some amazing things. Next slide. Concurrent enrollment, notice both of our high schools, Timpview and Provo High, have had it in their school improvement plans, that they are really focused on their students taking AP and CE courses before they graduate from high school. And so you'll see that concurrent enrollment success, we had a 35.5% increase in our concurrent enrollment numbers. which saved our Timpview High School students $2 million in tuition savings, and our Provo High students $1.72 million. I would hope that our parents are really aware of what this means for our students or for their families and just their success overall. So just really attribute, it takes a whole team at these high schools to make this possible, and then our students to actually deliver on that. They've done a tremendous job. Next slide. Provo High has really done an exceptional job of focusing on its graduation rate success. So you'll notice in 2024, their grad rate sitting at 87%, 2025, 91%, and 2026, and this is before we add in the October 1st, those that are completing by October 1, they're sitting at a 95% graduation rate success. It's because they've been really intentional with not only just tracking students, which is a big piece of this, just making sure that they're noticing where students are going and what's happening with them as they're going through their high school career, but also paying particular attention to special education students and students who sometimes are falling between the cracks in that process. So huge success there. Next slide. Also want to celebrate Timpview High School, which was just recognized in U.S. News and World Report as the number 9 high school in the state of Utah. There were only 2 comprehensive high schools recognized in the state in those top 10. Timpview being number 9, and I think it's also really important. I actually had a phone call from another superintendent who wanted to talk with us about what Timpview High School is doing to have this success because of the demographics that they serve, where they have 25% of their students that are economically disadvantaged. When you look at your other high schools like Skyline and Corner Canyon, those high schools have less than 10% of their students economically disadvantaged, also have a much lower percentage of their students that are students of color or students who are multilingual students. Timpview High School is seeing extraordinary success with students across the board. So something that is happening with their culture and how they're being very purposeful. We're going to be doing a podcast with Principal Tua I believe on Thursday to kind of talk about that culture, so demonstrating that success that's happening overall. So great job to the entire Timpview High staff for all of their work there as well. Next slide. So as we continue, so now we have all of these awesome things that have happened. We want to move forward and keep that momentum going. So Tier 1 instruction and relationships are our focus. You can go to the next slide, Shauna. One of the things that we're focusing on with our district improvement plan is really making sure that we're prioritizing this Tier 1 instruction, and we can't fix what we don't see. So we're setting really intentional goals with our principals that they need to be in classrooms. Every single principal and administrative team has set a goal with how often they need to be in classrooms and what we're looking for in terms of what those engaging classrooms need to look like, so that we can start to identify how we can support our system overall, and then what that professional learning needs to look like to support our teachers, because it's unfair to provide feedback to teachers and say, this is what needs to change, if we're not actually giving them the tools to do that. And we also know that we have tremendous experts across our district, and our teachers need to be learning from each other. So we need to be connecting those teachers to one another. So you are seeing a lot of our schools initiating learning blocks, where teachers are being asked to go and look at what's happening in other classrooms across the district so that they can learn from each other, and really watching teachers from within their school, so they don't necessarily have to travel to another school site. Next slide. Student engagement is huge for us. We want to make sure that student talk is increasing in our classrooms. I think it was really interesting to listen to our student board members in our last board meeting talk about how when the teacher is engaged and engaging with them, when there are opportunities for the students to engage with one another, rather than them just sitting on their Chromebooks, it's huge for students. The learning increases, and we want to make sure that is continuing. I don't know if you've watched Calmy Alvarez's No Cell Phone campaign, but it is fantastic, and really trying to get students to put away their phones, to use technology as a tool, and really to help our teachers with some intentional planning and how are we intentionally making our lessons accessible for students with disabilities, for multilingual learners, and what does that look like? We have a K-12 literacy component with our Provo Reads campaign. Math is huge, especially at our elementary level as we're rolling out a new math curriculum. And then also with our classroom observations to really make our practice public as we go in and share our best practices and share with one another what is working with our students. Next slide. This you've seen before, our Provo Reads campaign. I would like to introduce you to Riley Reads a Lot. He is our giraffe who's going to be our mascot for Provo Reads. So you'll see him on social media, just really talking about trying to set goals. You'll notice students are starting to set goals, particularly as they're going to start Acadience testing here by the end of the month. And then I'm trying to set up some time where I can go in and have opportunities to have lunch with students that meet their goals and do some different things to promote that district-wide so that we can see that happening K-12. Next slide. The second piece that we're focusing on is relationships. We already have our PBIS structures in place. Just noticing tremendous growth across our schools from when I started here in Provo to this year, just seeing it evident in every single classroom. You're noticing that our discipline referrals are down significantly despite the fact that we have actually more teachers in schools using Educator's Handbook in this process. Really trying to explain and be really explicit with what our expectations are for students. Our attendance campaign is definitely continuing. I don't know if you've seen the social media posts that have been going out where we're trying to communicate with parents about here are some good times to schedule family vacations so that students are not missing school at other times, so that it's coordinating with already the student breaks that we have. We're really encouraging everyone to be in alignment with that. And then in addition to that, we have a much larger continuum of a behavior support system. So we have a behavior team, we're training our principals, and then our principals will take that information to teachers to help support them with some really, some important skills that they can utilize in their classrooms to help with classroom management, so that we make sure that it isn't a structural issue that's happening in a classroom if we're having a behavior issue, and then providing those supports and the training for the teacher before we're assuming that it's necessarily a student issue, and just working together through that process. So really just creating those systems and a method by which we go through that's systematized as a district. Just a big shout out to Nate Edvilson and his team, as well as student services. Carrie Rollins has been really key in all of this as well. Next slide. We just want our district to feel like we are a crew, we are together in this. If you go to the next slide, I really love space, so I love the Artemis 2 mission. I think Gina, you talked about this in your remarks at our last board meeting, that we are one district and one crew. We're not these 18 different schools doing different things in different directions, but we're really trying to make the impossible possible because we have a singular mission. And so we're pretty excited for this school year and hope to see that success continue that we've already started, and that momentum continue. What questions do you guys have for me? You can turn me back around now.
I think you should clarify what Tier 1 instruction and PBIS is for people who don't know.
Great, I'd be happy to. Tier 1 instruction is what we do with whole class. So it's what every student gets, it's what's happening on grade level. When we talk about tier 2 instruction, that's going to be more what an individualized student needs. That's going to be more small group instruction where we might have to go in and fill in a hole because a student is missing something from a previous grade level or a previous concept that might not be on grade level. PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, and it's really about the structures that we put in place as an entire school. So like if you walk into Shoreline Middle School, for example, you're going to see expectations that are listed out as to this is what our expectations are for hallway behavior, classroom behavior, cafeteria behavior. It's explicitly taught to the students and then reinforced. And when a student is kind of out of alignment in that, then we take the opportunity to reteach. I think in the past it's always just been about a negative consequence. Well, you get a detention or you get suspended or something like that happens, but we need to reteach and make sure the student has the right support that's in place so that they know what the expectation is and make sure that they're aware of that. So that's what PBIS means. So we measure that. There's all sorts of tools that we're measuring that to make sure that those structures are in place appropriately.
Okay, anybody have questions for Wendy? Comments?
Well,
Melanie. Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
I just wanted to just say that this is exciting and I'm happy to see the direction that the district's going and trying to get the excitement at the beginning of the school year. So thank you for your hard work.
Yes, Lisa.
Well, I just like the clarity of these two pillars around relationships and, tier 1 instruction as an area of focus. I think there are so many things to be intentional about within the scope of those two things, but still I just really appreciate that because I think that's a great way for all of us to focus our work this year. And I love seeing all the successes from last year. I know how teachers and administrators and all sorts of employees were really thoughtfully intentional, and so measuring and showing success is so cool. I love it. So thanks.
I think as we start seeing this data dashboard come together and as our teachers start to see it, I think it will become really powerful. I think in the past, we've seen data being used to show where our shortcomings are. We need to really start using that data to show, no, we're doing some really amazing things as a district, and being able to capitalize on that and keep moving that and keep continuing that momentum, if you will.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions or comments?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. And I just want to echo just the excitement I have reading this, the momentum we already have, and where the vision of where we're going is really exciting. And thank you for sharing that not only with us, but with our teachers, and now our whole community can watch and see, and just in a way that you want to be a part of it. And so thank you. It's awesome.
You bet.
Okay, before we move on to our next item, I propose that we take a 5-minute break. We are a little ahead of schedule and dinner recently arrived. That'll allow us to go to the bathroom and get dinner. So do we have a motion to take a 5-minute break?
I move that we take the 5-minute break.
Okay, motion by Board Member Hall. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Van Wagenen. Okay, and for my computer says it's 4:39. For ease of time, we'll just say till 4:45. Okay. You can pause the too. Back to school. And we're getting buses. So early.
Oh my gosh, it's so early.
If not, stop and restart.
So we're all aware of this.
Terry, I'm realizing I saw your message at work about class. I'm so excited. And then when I just saw you, I'm like, I never responded. Is he excited? They had what you needed, which is great.
Yeah. They had the right mic for him, so that was a good thing.
Don't be shy, come grab you guys now.
Sorry. I just remember being like, oops.
Salad, if you want to dip your chips in fry sauce, you get some right over there. Thank you.
Shia, how are you?
I'm feeling great. How are you? So good. Okay, let's see the kindergarten classroom. So fun. So I'll let my oh my gosh. Did you just reach out to the teachers? No. We just staff over there. They're Courtney, who's the coach there. This last this person. That's the lead software right now. She wrote about it, and so they just got so they decided it's 7. So then she was texting.
How do they do the SG? Okay. Probably bring in and out of.
So at least the sub has a room.
Wait till they
walk
into
into
a
a room. Yes, not like me. Yeah, it's so good. I mean, her staff was amazing. These, like, my other teacher had when she became president of college. Her staff on the team. This had
Yeah, for some reason, I think.
Yeah, it looks like
here when we're
ready for
large workshop.
Yeah, right. So it's usually
How about you? Do you have a full schedule?
No, I don't have a full period today, so
Your fourth period?
I was thinking about taking off my first period, but since I'm practicing in the morning, it makes sense just to.
Girls already there.
It's nice to just be able to leave like right after lunch.
Yeah. Do you have, right, do you guys have all one? Is it took you all one lunch or do you guys first and second lunch?
So we're one lunch.
All one. Okay, so you just go 3 classes, go home. Okay.
I'm glad it is after third period, no lunch.
Yeah, I
So
prefer to
just
do
knock out my classes. So I basically have early out every day.
So football practice is before school every day? Wow, that's early.
Did I have too many
You
attendance?
know, like, you don't know.
So usually start a team.
Totally,
We have
it's
team
like
meetings
saying a little
after
prayer, like
practice.
whatever's best, whatever's best.
We have 5 to 8. And try to get all of them by like 5.
Yeah. Well, waking up every day, because that is early.
I had to take one.
It's just like. Well, me neither, but.
All right, Terry, are you ready?
We haven't had too many attendance issues.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, it is 4:45. We're going to resume our meeting with agenda item number 7, and we are going to talk about
We just had this last Thursday our DLI, which stands for Dual Language Immersion. It's the Dual Language Immersion and Boundary Committee, Study Committee. They met for the first time this last week. And so we wanted to go an overview for you and for the public of what happened at that meeting, and then we can discuss as a board some follow-up for that and kind of set a direction before their next meeting. Now they meet monthly, so we will have another meeting here if there's anything we want to discuss before that. But so Bonnie, can you please pull up slides for that? It's also attached for everybody in board book. You can see the report there. So you can go to the next one. So we started off with just some introductions. They could know who we were and some of the district staff that will be attending, as well as then we sat them at tables where Gina did a great job of mixing them all up so they weren't, like no one from the same school was at the same table, and trying to get a variety of experiences at each table. But also just, we started off so they could get to know each other. And then if you go to the next.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Was it well attended?
Yes, so we have 31 people on the committee, and we have 3 who could not come, and we're not able to send a substitute that day, and we're following up with them on that. And then we had 1 person who knew ahead of time that they couldn't be there, and their substitute was there. So, okay. So you can see there, this is the schedule that we shared with them, and we let them know that this is tentative on things, right? But to give them kind of an overview of when the meetings are, but also when we're hoping to do the research and the survey that we want to send to all families that will be based off of the work that's happening in the committee, as well as the work from the Peregrine Research Company that will help us know better how to then get a sense from our whole community through the survey what they're doing. And we let them know that we would like to, if possible, make a decision as a board by December or January, but that is all tentative because we don't want to rush anything if we're not ready. But if we can be ready by then, that would set us up for the next school year to know in enough time staffing considerations and things like that. And then we let them know that after their work is done in helping us on a DLI decision, then they will continue to meet and work on a policy, as we've talked about in past board meetings, related to boundaries and possible school closures, just setting up a good policy in a neutral time. So, and then next slide, we went over the expectations and norms, and this has also been emailed to them twice now. And one of the norms or expectations we added based on their discussion was that they are to be watching this discussion right now, whether live or later, so they know, and any discussions we have about DLI. We also sent them information ahead of time, so they got the slides that we did back in, was it May, June? That whole slide thing they were able to look through. And then based on some of the questions that you're about to see, we sent them more slides back from our December meetings as well, which I think we copied you on that so you can see what that was that we sent them. And then down there in the little pink, I know it's hard for our public to see this right now, but just a reminder for them and for the public that the recommendations of the committee are helpful and very important information to help the board, but ultimately this is a decision of the board, and so the board may not adopt the exact recommendations that come from the committee. So, okay, and then we went over just some of we want to just kind of set some baseline understanding, so you guys all know this, we can skip this part, and the parameters, any decisions that need to happen within, you can keep going. And then we spent most of our time on this discussion, and we had them talk about these 2 questions. So they talked in their tables about this, and then we took it out to the whiteboard. And Gina, I just realized I'm totally dominating this conversation. Do you want to jump in? Okay. I asked at the wrong time. Okay, so this here, I've added this for, this was not part of the presentation because this is what was on the whiteboard, like based on the conversations we had as a full group. What stood out to them from what they'd been studying, from the information we've already talked about as a board. So you can see some of the standouts, and I think, yeah, this goes on to 2 slides. So, yeah, Jean,
Before we go to this, I was impressed, at least one of the tables had the slides out on their devices
Several
as they
of them
were,
did.
yeah. And I heard, and the other ones I didn't see, but I could tell by their discussions that they had taken it seriously and they had read what Jennifer and I had sent out. And so I feel like, anyway, that's, they took it seriously. I feel like they're willing to do a good job.
And there were people there with like notebooks out to take notes. We also did some that reminded me, Terry helped us compile a list of our board meetings with links to the board meetings. So if they wanted to go back and watch previous ones, right after the meeting, someone emailed me and said, great, I know you've talked about it in other board meetings too. Can you send us more? I want to study more, right? And which is what we sent today. So yeah, we've got a good group who is taking it very seriously. And one of the norms or the expectations that we didn't highlight just now is just that they should be talking about this with their school communities, with their neighbors, with other parents between our meetings to get their feedback, and also to share with those people what we're talking about and just represent a huge variety of perspectives because there are so many nuances here. So you can see that the standouts to them are very similar to what we've talked about in our conversations about some of the DLI versus non-DLI in our DLI schools and how that can feel like an elitist mentality, the disparity between what we're spending on our teacher FTE allocations and the class sizes. One person pointed out that for all but one of our schools, less than 50% of those participating in DLI live in the school boundary, and so she interpreted that as people who are willing to travel for the program, not necessarily tied to their neighborhood school. You go to the second standouts one. Yeah, thank you. They did talk about the frustration about not starting the program in later years, and so we shared with our discussion we've had here about that we've learned that we can and probably should be saying, hey, you can start in 3rd grade, 4th grade if you just move in. And we talked a little bit about the difference between our 2 models. So 4 of our schools have the foreign language model, and Timpanogos has more of a heritage language, and that there is a difference there. So, and then more info. These slides highlight what they requested. I'm not going to go over all of these. The board has all this information, and the public can access this online as well. So some of this data we have discussed in past board meetings. We didn't sit there and address it with them right then, but that's why we then sent them the slides and information today. Some of it is going to be data we can look into, and some of it is things that I think we all wish we could know, but I don't know that there's a way to get that, such as students who haven't completed the program, do we know why they left? Well, we haven't been doing exit surveys, so we don't really know why necessarily, and do we have a good way to get hold of them at this point? Probably not.
Was that in our survey we sent out in last January? Remember? I don't remember the questions. Wendy, you might remember, but last January when that survey went out, was there a question about if someone wasn't doing DLI, why? And maybe it wasn't specific to did you leave DLI though?
Yes, I think there is, sorry, there is some of that data in the survey itself, but we didn't survey students in particular. So I do think there's sometimes a difference too. I've had a lot of parents asking me, well, have you surveyed the graduates and have they used this like as a skill? So like, are they using their French or whatever? And one of the things that I've reminded them is it isn't just about being bilingual in 2 languages. There is a huge cultural piece that is a piece of the state's model in what they're trying to accomplish. So, but we could go through that survey data and scope that out and piece that out more specifically for this committee.
Yeah, I just wondered if some of those questions were, that there might be at least something from that survey that we didn't know to highlight that might help support that, so we're not out trying to find new data.
Right.
If we already have some.
I think you're correct. I think we can do that.
Yeah, so one thing we can look at in the next week or two is, yeah, the information that they want to know and how the information we don't already have, how can we get it? Can we get it? What's the best way to approach that and kind of create a plan for that? And I would say,
about that, I wondered, could we ask committee members if any of them have a way they could gather some of the data that we don't have? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, would any of them have a suggestion or a means to help gather some of that? Especially around some of the like house prices or, you know what I mean? If they want that kind of data, some of them maybe could go research that for us.
yeah, there was a very specific question, wasn't there, about more than just socioeconomic, but housing affordability and how does housing affordability affect it? And yeah, that's kind of above my pay grade here. Gina, go ahead.
I think too, there were every ask for more data from this group, this committee there were good asks. We're not going to be able to, even if we can get all that information, we don't have, we can't get all that information, nor do I think can we use it all in the scope of the conversation. Right. So I think as we move on in the conversation, we'll figure out which of those data asks are the ones that we actually, number one, can get, and number two, are more pertinent to what we're doing.
Yeah. And I would say my interpretation of a lot of the questions and the comments during that whole discussion, I feel like a lot of the committee members were really focused on looking at who is this affecting, who is in the program, who's not in the program, why or why not, and does everyone have an equitable opportunity for that program? That seemed to me, maybe that was just my interpretation, but that seemed to be a consideration that a lot of people were having as we looked into that. So then we go to the next slide. We posted this, these questions. I let them know these are things we've been asking and talking about and are going to want their help. We didn't have time for them to sit there and actually go through each of them and discuss yet. But then if you go to the next page, this was a question that came up at the beginning from one of our committee members, and then we brought it back to it at the end. He said, what problem are we trying to solve? And that is a great question, because I think that's where we're at. It's also been phrased, like, what are our priorities? And Gina did a great job of saying, you have just highlighted, as we've talked about things, there's this issue with the program or this issue. We know we appreciate many things about it, but we can see room for improvement. But which problem of those are we trying to solve? I don't know that we can solve them all, but how can we solve as many as possible? And someone said, well, where is that central area that we can come to that would benefit as many students as possible, or all of our students, right? We're not going to fix every problem, overcome everything, but how do we get there? And I think that's kind of where we're at right now, is now how do we determine what that is and how do we get there? So I want to come back to that in a minute, but let's go to the next slide. This is just for your awareness and the public's awareness. The committee meets the third Thursday of each month. We are going to post meeting summaries on the website for the public, and we'll also share with the committee members. You're not on the website yet because I've had to go out of town right away afterwards, and I've not worked with Caleb on that, but we will get a summary up for the public, as well as they now have this attachment too. We are not noticing these as public meetings, and so we can only have 3 board members to attend, and so we can do it like we do with like Student Advisory Council, where we rotate. Gina and I are the ones kind of planning it. I don't know, I feel as leadership, we want to take a lot of the burden off of you guys. This is a board committee, so it's not a burden either on our district administration. So I feel it's important to take on that leadership and do that, but definitely want your input if you have input on how we can do that. All of the minutes, or all the planning for our committee meetings and stuff are in folders that are accessible to you guys, that you can see them and help us with it. And then we can just rotate who else gets to attend with that. I just lost my picture. And then we will.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, because like I know Terry and I talked on the phone, like I don't think we all understood that that's how this committee was going to run. We just knew it was a board committee. So like I thought we were all supposed to be there, and then it would be a noticed meeting, and that we would help plan out like what are we asking from this committee, et cetera, and have input into kind of how that was structured. Is there a way, like, can we have that discussion here, and then also whatever we agree on, I think it would be great if we had an idea and input into what the goal of this really is, like we're going to talk about, and then how we get there and what we think are important pieces of information to make sure people have, and just a structured way to give that input.
Yes, yes, I would love your input on that. I
Want to talk about it now, or are you?
What was the first part that you said about?
Just the understanding of the structure of this committee structure and how
And
it
why.
would run and who would come and whether it would or wouldn't be noticed, et
Yeah.
cetera. Because what is the reason for not, I mean, I'm not looking for tons of extra work. This is a really important piece to be plugged into, but like, what do people think about that, and are we fine with it? That's what I just wanted to make sure we had as
I'm
an
not okay
open conversation.
with you two being in charge at all. I'm pretty upset. I think someone else needs to be in charge of this committee. You guys are working on way too much. It needs to be someone else's responsibility. A lot of decisions were made, and the 5 of us were not included. I'm pretty pissed off.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Do you have a suggestion?
I have a lot of things. I have a lot of questions that we'll need to go through. But do you want to talk about this specific thing about who's going to be in charge of the committee right now?
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt them, though. I
Let's
thought we
do
were
it.
on that.
Okay.
Unless you're done. Are you done?
Well, we did also, I think this is important to work through. We also, I want to balance, this is important to work through with the time frame that we have. And I do think we also want to work through what problem are we trying to solve and how do we advance the work of the committee. But we do have another meeting of us before that committee meets. So we do have time to figure that out as well. So why is it not a noticed committee? For me, as I've thought about that, and we can change it. Like if people want to change it, we can change it. But we have 2 other committees. One, we don't have any board members attend, and because we want to stay out of it so that they can have an open discussion and then it gets reported back to us without us there. We have another one where 2 board members get to attend, and that's their meeting assignment, right? We have our student advisory council where we can only have 3 of us there, and as much as I think a lot of us would love to be at all of them, we don't go to all of them. So is this one we all want to go to? Maybe it is. I do think if we all went to it, then would we have a good, healthy, robust discussion of it here in the public for the public to hear? I do think that's an advantage that we're following up here for the public to hear. So, but if people want to change it, we
It might
can
change the conversation a little. I will say this, Terry, as I was sitting at a table and they were having a conversation, and I felt like I should kind of leave that table to allow them to have that conversation absent a board member so that they felt a little more open. That said, I was glad I was there and able to kind of watch the process and understand better. And maybe it's more a kind of procedural thing in the future for us, like if we do have a board thing, to
have the conversation before we start. So what will that mean? What does that look like? Who will lead it? How do we want that to go so that that feels maybe more collaborative? I don't know. Tell me what you're thinking.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to hear. Yeah. I apologize. Like, I didn't mean to leave people out. I don't think Gina did either. I think some of it was we were coming up on summer and summer schedule's a little different and trying to keep things off of your plate. I struggle as a leader sometimes to know where's that balance of we're all very engaged and want to be a part of things, but also leadership is asked to lead on certain things for reasons so that not everyone has to be a part of everything. And so where is that line? I think we, with everything, try to finesse it, and sometimes we get it wrong, and sometimes people might disagree where that line is. So I think communicating about it is a great way to do it, and I'm happy to be collaborative. I think the best way we can move forward on the committee is with everybody's input on what we do there. So, did you want to say anything before Terry responds?
I heard a few people, more than a few people at the meeting. They were saying critical things about the district. Critical isn't the right term. They were saying what their feelings were about different things that had happened in the district, and I, like Lisa, felt I needed to back off because I was trying to listen to conversations because they'd see me coming and then they would change what they were saying. I think it was 7 of us there. I think it would be, I think it would change the conversations that they were having. So I don't need another meeting, to be perfectly honest. But I do think there is value in having the same people run it every time. I think otherwise it would be chaos, or at least not following a certain, it's not following a path, just people doing different things. The other thing is we need to be mindful, in my opinion, about the time frame for this. The more people we add, the slower everything's going to go. I'm not saying we shouldn't get input from people, but what I am saying is we are really aiming for the stars with this December, January deadline. But we could, honestly, based on all the information that we got and all the conversations we had, this group could last 3 years.
Yeah.
And we'd still come to the exact same conclusion. And so whatever it is we decide, I would like us to be mindful of the fact that, number one, we have people coming in and we don't want to use up too much of their time. Number 2, we still have the boundary piece that we need to do with the same group of people. Number 3, I want us to be thorough, but I also want us to be very clear that we're not going to drag this out. So.
Can I chime in?
Go ahead.
I guess first I'll say, Terry, I see what you're saying. I see your perspective, but I also understand the timeliness piece, and I understand that we had July off, and I knew that we were starting this committee in August on the Thursday. So there is a piece of that needing to get organized, and that is a responsibility of leadership. And I do think it is important that we honor the commitments we made to this group of 30 parents who we are asking them to put a lot of time in and knowing what's going on, watching old board meeting minutes, and making sure we said we were going to start here, we are going to start here. So I think in order to have done it differently, we would have had to say, well, actually, we're not going to start till September. I think I'll speak for myself. I know Jennifer and Gina and their skill set, and I also know there's not operating and trying to lead people out. It's how do we do the work that we are charged to do in the most effective and best way possible. And I think that there's always room for us to give input. I would say if I had a problem, I can tell them and we can deal with it then. Not to say I do see the lens of like, well, this is a board committee, we should all be there, but it also is a committee, not a meeting. So committees do operate different in the sense of what kind of discussions, everything we've already said. So I just will say I am fine with how we have it structured, and I do think moving forward though, as we continue, we all can give input of, can we make sure we ask this committee about this? Can we make sure that we are getting a sense of where they would feel about any of these given topics that any of us maybe feel is important to as we make this decision. Because I do think with this committee, some consistency and they know what to expect each time, I think is useful. And once again, I just understand a lot of this is the timing of when we were going to start. We had our break in July, and that's how I can see where maybe some information felt like it got lost in translation. But I will say for me, when I just asked to clarify who's supposed to be there, and it was like for leadership, I was like, okay, that made sense to me. Even though I did need clarification. I was like, oh, we're coming back from this break. I can't remember what we decided, and maybe it seems like maybe we weren't very clear on what we decided, and so it makes sense that leadership is like, okay, we're up against this deadline. We're got to be ready for this meeting, and this is how we're going to move forward. So that's my 2 cents. But
if we were going to fix this agenda item should have been at the last meeting. If we were going to keep this organized, that's what should have happened. But obviously that didn't happen. So now there's a lot of problems that we have to fix. Christy Giblin came up to me and asked if some teachers could be a part of the committee, and I told her I would forward that to the rest of the board. I don't know if they actually want to be on the committee or if they want to give a presentation to the committee. You will have to talk to Christy about that.
okay.
Another thing, what is this focus group that we're hearing about? I know nothing about it. Devin, I need a clarification on RFP requests. Is there something that says you don't need an RFP request because of money or whatnot? Why was this focus group not included in an RFP request?
So RFPs are for professional services are not necessarily required, especially if they're under 80,000.
Okay.
So it's only required.
So then how much is this focus group costing us? Because I have no idea.
It was around 20, between 18 and 20 when it was all said and done.
Okay, so the board didn't need to vote on that.
Correct.
But we do need to approve that we're actually doing a focus group, right?
We did talk about, I wasn't surprised that we were going to be doing focus groups. I wasn't sure what that process would look like, but we talked about that being part of it.
Can I say something about that? I feel like this was more coming from my request. So individuals had reached out because they wanted to step in and help us gather some data, and I don't feel like I'm qualified to do some of this work, and I needed some help. And so talked with Devin, talked with these individuals, talked with Jennifer and Gina about this, and there are some real benefits to having a group like Peregrine come in and look at this. Like one of the things that, Gina, you're bringing up about this, as these parents are meeting, that there's probably some animosity or frustration with the district, and they might be quiet when district people are around. They're not going to hold back when it's an outside group that is interviewing that and getting that information. We actually get more accurate information from parents when a focus group, when a group like that interviews parents than if we're doing it, because we have relationships with some of these individuals, and I feel like it's a huge benefit. So I just want to speak to that. I'm probably the person that you need to be irritated at, Terry, in this, because I was the one that was asking for this initially, because I just feel like this is outside of my skill set.
My also concern is that we have no idea what they're asking. We need to be in control of what are they asking? What are they not asking? This is the kind of information
I disagree with that, because this falls under the purview of what a superintendent is supposed to do, and I'm meeting with them every other week to look at, and they've gone through and we've listed the questions and kind of laid that out. So I think we also have to be careful here about whose lane does this fall in. You guys are getting input as to what the program's going to look like, but in terms of the specifics of the administration of how this happens, that falls within my lane. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the board, we give overall direction, and then it's up to Wendy and Devin and their teams to implement.
So how is this focus group supposed to help the committee then?
So the focus group is helping to give us extra information in targeted ways. We're going to gather, besides the committee we've already formed, they're going to reach out to other people, work with other people. They're going to do some observations in our schools, talk to some teachers, do some interviews to help us really understand all the nuances so that then we can craft really specific and thoughtful questions for the survey. So what I'd like to propose, Terry, I
Jennifer,
other
add one more
things
thing to
we
that.
need to go over.
Go ahead, Wendy.
The Peregrine group adds a dimension that is so much larger. So right now you only have these 31 people that are part of this group. So with every single group that they're going to pull in, they're also going to be doing some drop-off surveys where like parents are being interviewed quickly as they drop off and pick up students. They're going to be doing some classroom observations to see if perceptions of parents as to what's happening in our DLI schools is actually matching what's actually happening. So the data source is much richer so that we're not just getting 31 people's perceptions of things, and they can align that and make sure that that qualitative data is showing, like so far some of the stuff that they've come up with is, yes, this is aligning with what people are saying. It just validates all of that to a much greater degree so that we can show that that data is much richer, in my opinion, because they're experts in how you gather these data and how you design a survey. We are not skilled in designing what a survey would look like. They're going to gather this information and then tease out what that looks like in that process. And I'd be happy to sit down with you, Terry, and go through.
No, I know how to design a survey. That was part of my PhD. Okay, my next topic is...
Terry, can I just interrupt for a second? So I want to hear your concerns for sure. And I'm also trying to balance that with the time that we have available today. And so I'm wondering if we could talk, number one, after the meeting and get all of your concerns.
No, I want this to be public.
And then we can also bring it back at our next meeting and finish our discussion there.
I have a couple other things that need to be talked about in public though.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first one is, did anyone verify that the parents actually have kids in the Provo schools?
The parents on the committee?
Yeah.
That was one of the questions that we asked them all.
Yeah, but some people lied because there was a parent that applied for Franklin and for Amelia, and I asked the principals and they couldn't find these people or their kids.
Is there a reason why you did not share that with us when
I
you were
did.
aware of it?
I put it as a big red thing on the spreadsheet. Do not put these people.
Well, I would think though that that's not who was chosen to represent.
One
So
of the parents
hopefully-
from the Franklin was chosen as an alternate.
Okay.
I don't think
So that's a good thing for us to just make sure we
Okay.
check.
Yeah, and if you could communicate directly, that would also help
Well,
us
this
make
would have
sure
been
that we
helpful at our last meeting.
Okay, do you have something else?
Yeah. So you did mention in the PowerPoint how long we should last, but I was under the impression that when we stopped doing the thing on our March meeting and went and had all these community meetings, that we were not going to put December as a deadline. That we were going to take all school year long to make this decision. That was what I was under this impression. Because if we're going to make a December deadline, we should have been working on this since March.
I think I was just talking about DLI and not about boundaries and school consolidations. Like I think that's right what you've separated out, is that that if, and she was very clear in that meeting that that's not a deadline like that we're pushing to, it's just that if we wanted to make changes, that would be the timeline by which we would need to have reached some kind of decision, so that in
respectful of the way the district needs to operate around staffing, they could do that before the following school
No,
year.
there's state
but-
laws about boundary. You have to
But
make a
this would be
decision by
just for,
December.
this would be a
So,
DLI
can I-
Yeah,
decision.
that's my
Let me
other
just finish
question
that.
is, are there
So, 'cause
state
I-
laws about when you have to make decisions about DLI? Because
Okay.
I don't know.
So let me clarify, because I do know the answers to all of these questions. So first, boundaries and any type of school closure or consolidation has to be done by December. Any type of boundary adjustments does not have to be done by December. You just have to have a 90-day window. I asked for a December deadline on DLI, but I remember very distinctly in a meeting that we discussed that we said we would like to have this done in December, but if it takes us longer to make that decision, then that is what we will do, because we will do what's in the best interest of our community in that process. But with DLI, I do have to have that decision. It's not about state law. It's about when teachers are going to be hired. It's about if I'm eliminating a program or something like that. There's a lot of moving parts that my team has to work on that decision does have to be made by December. But that was specific to DLI. We did not discuss, we talked about that had to be in place before any other changes could be discussed regarding boundaries. So boundaries was not a part of that deadline per se.
Yeah, that as well as making a policy,
Yeah,
right?
and
like
we
working
did
on
talk
that.
about
Yeah.
this, and I don't remember which meeting, but Terry, it might have been the meeting that you had to miss, and so I'm sorry if, because you missed one of the meetings, that some of this information got missed. So I'm sorry that it
I watched the
wasn't clear.
meeting that I
Yeah,
missed.
I don't think that's.
So am I under the impression at the next board meeting, we will be making a timeline of what topics will be discussed at the DLI committee? Is that what's going to happen?
I think we're gonna work through at least what will happen at the next committee. I personally don't feel that we should make a full timeline because the conversations that happen here affect what then they will talk about, and then their conversations might affect what we talk about, and vice versa, right? We probably wouldn't stick to a full plan because we wanna adjust. But I understand what you're saying, that we should have a plan, as Lisa said earlier, where are we trying to get to by the end of their time?
Especially if we have a December deadline.
Yes, so
Well,
I
and
think
if
that's an
someone
important
has a
conversation to have.
specific concern or question, like you were talking to me about safety, so, and I was like, what does that have to do with this conversation? And she explained from her perspective and what she's learned about it, why that would be helpful input. So maybe there's like even, you know how we sometimes have a planning sheet or write down your questions here. Maybe there's something we could create as a tool where before people are too far planned down the road, someone could give input, like here's a question I would like to have answered, or here's something I was thinking would be useful to share with this committee. And that would help with the planning, and then we could be talking here as well after a meeting about where to go next. Terry, would that be helpful too in terms of sharing some of the things that you'd like to bring up and talk to the committee about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I'm done with my list.
okay, thank you. So we will have on our next agenda, the beginning of September, that we will finish talking about this. We'll make the plan for what, I do agree we should do some of our planning offline. Like, this is not a planning meeting, a board meeting is not a planning meeting, right? But we will have some discussions. What problem are we trying to solve? We're gonna come back to that, and kind of where do we want the committee to go at their next meeting to help us in making our decisions. So be mindful of that, be thinking about that. And if you have other input on anything discussed today in this discussion, let's chat afterwards.
Can I
Gina?
take just 30 seconds? I was thinking about this today and trying, because my thoughts are everywhere. Like in our meetings, I feel like our meetings were always kind of like, what is happening? What are we going to do? Which I think has led to some of this. But I tried to kind of narrow it down. So I just want to throw this out there, and I can email it to you as well. But I was writing down, what is the question? What is this problem right there that we're trying to solve? And I started with a lot of, anyway, this is what I came up with, and I would love to get input from you guys just to kind of get us all thinking about it. because next time I'd love for us to have a really productive discussion. I think a productive discussion is only going to be productive if we have something to work off of, right? So the thing that I came up with, which is not perfect, and I know it's not perfect, so I'm open for criticism, is what is the most equitable way for the district to serve both DLI and non-DLI students in schools? That was the question, and that's a huge question, right? And then factors to consider under that is, do we want a magnet school? Do we decrease the number of languages offered? Do we increase the numbers of languages that we offer? Do the schools need to have a certain number if they're going to have a DLI, a certain number of total number of students? And then how many languages are sustainable for secondary to continue this on to DLI? So if you guys would, I will email that out to you guys, but I thought maybe it would be helpful, sorry Jennifer, I didn't tell you about this, for us to have a jumping off point, or you can completely, you can go off, you don't have to follow what I just did, but I thought maybe it would be helpful if we had at least a place to start.
Okay, great to ponder, and yeah, we'll put that on our next meeting. So, okay, next is item number 8. We have an RDA request from Philo Ventures for Lakeview Crossing. Devin, I'll turn over to you to introduce, and then I know we've got some guests here to present.
Yep, so we have Philo with the Finance Committee heard this presentation back in June. So they are just, I'm not going to take any of their time because they don't have a lot of it to do their presentation, but this is a new RDA request from the board. So you introduce yourselves as you come up.
If you'll come up and stand near the screen, that would be great. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Cody Hill. I'm actually not with Philo. I work for Provo City. I'm their Economic Development Division Director. I've been with them for about 1.5 years. But I've been living in Provo for 6 years now and have 4 kids in Provo City School District, and just, this is such a thankless job, and I really, really appreciate the amazing work that you do to help educate my kids. I've got 2 at Provo High, 1 at Shoreline, and then 1 at Sunrise. So I'm really excited for the school year to start, and just thank you for all you do. And I'm very sensitive to requests for tax increment from school districts. Before I was with Provo City, I was with a consulting firm that did local government consulting. We worked for special districts like school districts, as well as cities and counties, and I understand the pressures that you're under financially and how difficult it is to run a successful school district. And so hats off to you, and so thank you so much. So I don't come lightly with this request, but I did want to provide a little bit of background and then just kind of set the table for Greg. So this site is just south of the Epic Sports Park, and when we purchased the land from the church, our intent was to just zone the bottom 5 commercial and have amenities there that could support the Epic Sports Park as well as the airport. And so last year we put out an RFP looking for developers to partner with us on this, and we got a lot of really great submissions, and we're most impressed with Philo and the development that they are proposing to us. And so the city is very much a partner on this deal, and I think there's a lot of support from our city council and our administration as well. And so I'm going to pass the rest of the time over to Greg, but I'm here if you have any questions from the city's perspective.
Appreciate it. We'll go through these slides really quickly. I will echo what Cody has said and say thank you for everyone that does. I sit on some boards. You know, we don't really get paid, and it's a lot of time and effort. And my wife, my mother, my sister, all school teachers. So yeah. And it's tough, by the way. Being a school teacher is really, really difficult right now. So, okay, we can just go through these slides if you. How do I do that? Actually, okay, yeah.
Oh, you have to say next slide.
Okay, perfect. All righty, so this is the general overview. So we have, as we just stated, we have 5 acres at the bottom. If you know where the Epic Sports Park is, it's basically between the sports park and the airport is 5 acres. On that parcel, we've, at the city's request, we wanted to try to do a mixed use commercial. So not mixed use with residential, all commercial, but mixed types. Yeah. So we have hospitality, we have convenience store, and we have retail, different retail outfits. And so that's the focus is, that's the general overview. So 137 rooms, we're working with some great brands right now with the hotel. let's go to the next one. I want to show the maps. Let's get to the maps. We're planning to put a lot of money into this. 35 plus million.
No, I don't know. Mine, I just scrolled down.
It is.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, this is what I wanted to, and we'll get to another one here in a moment. So obviously there's still a lot of farm and a lot of fields out in this area, and we're going to zoom out even further in a moment, but I just want to highlight, while I'm grateful to be developing near the airport and near the Epic Sports Park, I coach club soccer as well, and I'm thrilled. I know what it feels like to go to these tournaments, and to have all this resources next door is going to be great. The reality is the site, from an economic point of view, isn't ready. So there's just not enough rooftops, there's not enough draw to that area. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, this is just site plan. We can definitely look at this. This is likely going to change a little bit, but this is the general site. A couple of drive-throughs with some different retail components over here, large hotel, and convenience store over here. This will serve, obviously, the surrounding area. A lot of people, if they have rental cars, they'll want to go stop there. It's going to be a great use. We're really excited. Okay. I don't know that we need to spend too much time here. We've reached out to a lot of the different brands. We've already got several kind of offers from these major brands that want to have the hotel here. So that's looking promising. Yeah. And by the way, as we're speeding through this, feel free to ask questions as we're going through on this specific topic. So any questions on the hospitality or on the site plan? Okay, great. Same idea. I will, admittedly, I was telling my partners we did miss the opportunity. We were going to put the Waffle House on here. So we should have put it on there, and I was standing out there and I'm like, darn it, why didn't I put that on there? I should have done them all.
Thanks.
But the truth is, we can get some great brands. So, okay. If there's not questions, we're going to just go right through this. Same idea. We've already got great C-stores hitting us up, whether it's Maverick or just Chevron and having the different ones. Probably we're leaning toward more upper scale C-stores. Just just FYI. Yeah. Okay. Timeline. So we're looking at this. This is going to be an important slide, especially as we talk about our ask. This is not a overnight project. It takes time to build this out. We're planning to start with the hotel. I think that's where the most demand is going to be, and the convenience store. The retail is, while we're going to have it be available, it's not going to fill up quite as fast. But we're talking about really until we're all the way done, 41 months. And we're hoping to get the hotel done in the next 2 years. That would be the best case scenario. We'll get the hotel done in 2 years. But really we're talking 2 to 4 years to get the construction going. The reason this matters is because you'll see in the ask, we're okay to start the time of the incremental tax from approval as opposed to end of construction. So it's on us to move things and get things done faster. We're not asking for you to wait for us.
So, can I just ask that? Yeah, so because in policy it's within 2 years of the base year that would trigger. That's what our current policy states.
2 years of the base year is.
I can just add to a little bit of
Yeah,
context to that.
yeah,
So,
just so that I
per the
understand.
city council's request, the base year value is not going to be zero because it is owned by the city. We're actually going to make the base year value the appraised value that we have, which is 4.3 million.
Okay.
And so you're going to get money already above what it is collecting right now. And then also, rather, like he was saying, so the ask is for 15 years. Normally, like he was saying, what you see is they'll come to you and they'll say, hey, can we have a 15-year agreement? And they're saying we will collect revenues for 15 years. We have 3 or 4 or 5 years to trigger. And then at that trigger point, we're getting 15 years. He's saying right now, if we sign this right now, it will be 15 years of collection starting now. And so the actual or the effective is more like 13 years.
Yeah, well, 13 to 11. If you look at the actual time. Yeah. And we're going to get to a slide here in a moment. We can go to the next slide. Oh, okay. This is the larger this is kind of the reason for the ask, but before I talk about just this map, I think what Cody is saying that is pretty significant, because we're open to saying, while there's a zero tax basis right now because it's city-owned land, we acknowledge that once we take this over, the base, we're not going to do the increment off of the base. We're going to do the increment off of the appraised price, which is about 4.5 million, a little over 4.5. So it immediately for the school district, it's going to start adding dollars from day one. So yeah, and this is a better overview. So there's just not a lot of retail and over here, and the reason there's not retail here is because the market doesn't think it needs to be over here. If the market felt like there was a large need because of the airport or Epic's parts, they would go talk to a farmer, they'd buy it, they'd develop it. The reality is that we're just slightly early. So, and how early is a great question. I don't know, but looking at all this green, it feels like we're just not filled in yet. So the rooftops don't support it, and that's sort of why we're saying, hey, let us take a risk, help us take a risk. Let's build it up together, and let's move it. Let's kick it started. That's the idea. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now we're getting into the specific ask. So current benefit to the school district today is zero. Comes because it doesn't get taxed. So this is our estimated incremental amount over the basis, which is about $249,000 per year. We're asking for 80% of that for 15 years. Now, keep in mind, like we were saying, this is assuming full build out. So we're not actually going to be getting the full amount for the first 4 or 5 years. But
whatever is there, you want 80% of it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
For
It's
15
in our
years,
benefit
right?
to
Yeah.
go as fast as
Yeah.
possible, to take advantage of the benefit as fast as possible. Yeah. Which is also the school district's benefit. So we want to try to tie our incentives together. Yeah, so this is the same things we've already talked about. 80%. This is already going through the Community Reinvestment Agency, or the CRA. The CRA is in place because of the acknowledgement that, hey, this area probably needs a little boost. And we're not planning to start at completion, we're starting at signing. There's obviously no tax basis today. We are open to setting the tax base at the 4.36, so just under 4.5 million as a basis. Then we're gonna have the increment go off of that basis. So that's good for the district. Obviously, we have all of these risks. The reason we're asking is we are out there. There will be absorption risk. We have to go to banks. We have to go to investors. We have to say, hey, this is the story. This is why you should do this with us. $35 million, a lot of money. If we can't show that it's going to have a financial return, you just can't attract banks. You can't attract the people. So this definitely helps. It helps get basically the minimum returns. It's not, these aren't crazy returns. This is just, let's get the minimum returns. So, and I think I've already spoken about most of these. So we can go to the next slide. And if there's any questions, this is a big one. This is the ask. But, and then, yeah, so this is kind of a summary. This is what the school district is estimated to receive. Actually, it's probably higher. It's higher than this for the 30 years. What this didn't account for as I was reading over my own slides was this 249 is the increment. So it's not even taking into consideration the 4.36 million of the basis that you're going to get from day one. So it's actually higher than this. You're obviously getting not any right now. The other thing is we're not putting any new students. So there's no additional burden to the district from what we're developing. It's only an increase. Yeah. So, any other questions? Let's go to the next slides, because while they're not the numbers, so this is a little bit about us, but I just want to tell you, I was reading over my slides, and sometimes you kind of skim over go ahead and go to the next one. Not to talk about myself, but just the team in general. We have a few of us here. The truth is, we have a huge team at our office. Everybody does a ton of work. And sometimes you don't get to the back of the slides, but I just wanted to say, we, go ahead and go to the next slide as well. But we just have a lot of team members that do a lot of things in the background, and sometimes they don't get enough acknowledgement. So I just want to make sure they get acknowledged. So they do a lot of work. So, and I guess we can go to the last slide. It's just our contact info and two of us. So I'm happy to entertain any questions. Yes.
So I'm curious, I mean, we've got a big portion of it, but what is the ask you're asking of the city?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't mind if Cody wants to speak to it, but it's, I would argue, greater, right? So they're behind it. Go ahead and say what
So
you
the
like.
cities.
Can you go up front just
Yeah.
for our YouTube?
Oh, absolutely.
viewers?
I didn't
Thank
realize
you.
there was streaming going on, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the cities, again, this hasn't come to the city for a vote yet.
Yeah.
But what's being proposed to the city is a 19-year agreement, and it's just like with them, it starts at signing. 100% of the property tax increment for 19 years, 30% of the sales tax increment for 15 years, no, 10 years, sorry. And then also the transient room tax, the city gets 1.5% transient room tax rate from the hotel, and it would be 30% of that for 10 years as well. And then the city's also putting up the land. And then there is an agreement, so we're, like I said, we're partners. And so there is a revenue sharing component where the city is providing the land and then becomes a partner to a joint venture, a special vehicle, special purpose vehicle is what it's called.
So it's a public-private partnership.
Right, and so 2.5% revenue sharing from the hotel, and then 2.5% of the lease revenue from the C-store and from the retail component. So that is what's being proposed to the city.
Not to go too far in the weeds, the reason we're doing the revenue share with the city is regardless if I turn a profit, doesn't matter. They're getting the top line revenue, they're not sharing in the profits, where normally investors have to come in and we have to make money for distributions to happen. That's not the case here. We bring in revenue, they get paid. Whether I make a profit, they get the money. So they're the top getters. They're the highest priority recipients of the money.
So based on the forecast, it would be looking at 2.2 million from the school district. That's the ask. That's the actual dollars that's coming from that ask at 80%.
Over the 15 years.
Over the 15 years. And then from the city, it's about 8.8. The land and the increment included, that value.
Has this been presented in the neighborhood meeting or planning commission yet?
It has been presented to the city council members, and then it's been talked, not these specific details, but I was at a neighborhood meeting for the West Side when we talked about this project specifically and what's being developed.
When is the city council going to vote on it, and when are you hoping that we might vote on it?
So the vote cannot happen until there's a 30-day noticing period. And so if we noticed tomorrow, then we would be able to catch your next, I think, 2 meetings next month, by the end of the month. And then the cities would be then in early October where we would adopt this. And we could include a contingency in your agreement where you're not participating unless the city's also participating. I think that makes absolute sense.
So they don't vote till after we've made our decision? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
But like I said, we can include a rider that triggers, that the school district's participation will never trigger unless the city's participation is locked in at these conditions or at these, percentages and years. And then the cities would be the first one in October where we would adopt the interlocal agreement with you, the interlocal agreement between the city and the redevelopment agency, and an adopted budget amendments as well. And the participation agreement.
Okay. Other questions from the board?
Mine's more, do we need to change our policy about the 2-year trigger? Instead of it being based on base year, on approval year?
That's a good question. I'll have to look and see if we have any give in there. I know with the lower term, the 15 years, the 80% is in our policy.
Yeah, it might not apply to these guys, but like in the future.
Yeah, in the future, we can look at it, but I think on this one, I think we're probably okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Especially if, I can't really tell from the policy, but if we approved a RDA that was maybe 10 years ago and still hasn't been triggered, do we need to put in something into the policy that says this has been expired?
that's a good question, but when we approved those RDAs from 10 years ago, that wasn't in the policy.
So we can't retro.
We can't retro this policy onto RDAs that have been approved in the past. So.
Board Member McCabe, we're doing things very differently because we're artificially inflating the actual base year value to what it actually
is. That's the difference on the 2 years.
Yeah.
The 2 years is because usually we wait until that base value is set in the future. They're setting it now, which is why I think this kind of doesn't trump, our policy doesn't trump this.
It works out better.
Right. Well, and we have the 0 to 2 years so to get them to do the project. Yeah. We've had multiple RDAs that never started the project.
Correct.
And in this instance, we're triggering immediately.
Right, yeah. I just want to say, I'm excited about the project. I think if you've been to Epic Sports Park, you're desperate for a place to run, grab a snack. I think I think it's going to be a really successful project, and personally, after we heard from you at the Finance Committee meeting and I looked over it, I just think it's really well handled, and thank you.
I hope when it's expanded, there's a need for a second hotel.
Well, I hope that too. If I have
land for it.
So I will say this. So because I was, so we're limited in our planning because some of the other groups came in and just wanted 2 hotels. They didn't want the retail and all of that. So we wanted to plan as efficiently as possible. So the hotel that we're planning right now is essentially 2 hotels in one building.
Okay.
To save space. So we are currently doing a dual brand with more rooms, and that can accommodate, we have to accommodate families and business travelers and flight attendants and pilots. So we have to do all of this together. So we've done a dual brand strategy into the hotel. Yeah.
And these are the types of projects that we have as approval, in our policy that we our preferred projects.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Any other questions?
Thank
Thanks for your time. Marathon meeting today.
We'll have us on an upcoming agenda to discuss and vote. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Next, we have a request from Timpview High School Marching Band for fee change. So we'll turn it over to Cammie. Cammie, come on up. Assistant Principal at Timpview here. If you'll go ahead and explain.
Yes. Well, I am here representing Marching Band because it was not Marching Band's fault that we're asking for a fee update. It was totally an admin on our end because they submitted the right numbers. I went back and I did my email chain, and I do not know what happened from us to Devin. So that's why I'm here. If you look, and I don't know if you have their fees in front of you, but everything is correct except for the transportation category, transportation officials and competitions. That one, how it currently is set, it's set at 120, and just gas prices and the fluctuation of them, that is not a realistic cost to cover the true cost of marching band season in there. It won't cover it. I'll give you some examples why. So they participate in parades, they do 6 local competitions, right? And then they also participate in Red Rocks, right, which is in St. George. So they're traveling from Kaysville all the way to Payson to St. George. 120 is not going to cover the cost of that. And so that's the area we're asking. Really what it needs to be is 800 on that one. And so that would take the total cost of marching band to 1,500, and that's all inclusive, and you can see the different categories that were already approved. So that is the main one. I do want to note too that one thing I've asked them to do, and they are trying to get better at that, is well, they do provide fundraising, but that's one they're looking into fundraise, more opportunities for fundraising as well. So, questions?
Questions from the board?
Yes.
I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm assuming that band families, I don't know if that's the correct term, are used to this kind of a fee?
They are.
Okay.
It's historically been this, so that our parents have been communicated. They know that most likely there hopefully will be a change. So historically it's been $1,500 since I've been at TIFU, so that's over 10 years.
So it's not going to be a big surprise to them?
No.
Thank you.
So they were surprised it was $820.
Yes, they actually, probably was a parent that noticed it. They're like, I don't think this is accurate. I was like, bless you. Yes, you're correct. It's not. So, yeah.
So this is band and color guard.
Yeah, it's marching band and colored guard.
Any other questions?
Love your shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I stand out. It works. A lot of freshmen find me. They're like, you're that lady on the stage. I have a question for you.
That's awesome. All right, and per policy, we have to see this twice before we vote on it.
This is state,
So,
per state law.
Yes.
We have to go and listen twice.
So
We
it
can't
will,
approve it until the
next board meeting, it will be up for a vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And I apologize for that error.
Thank you. All right, we are going to go to item 10, our large purchase request, and then just so everyone's aware, because of time, we will do our policy second readings as part of our business meeting. And Wendy's already okayed to save our first readings for next meeting completely, another day. So, okay, Devin, large purchase request.
Okay, so the two purchase requests are Centegix Visitor Management System. Centegix is the state contract for the panic devices. They also have a visitor management system that we believe all have the components that will make the getting into schools a little bit easier. Will solve some of the problems that Raptor has caused. And so the amount on this is for the 5-year cost. And so it's not that amount every year. That is the full cost.
How much, I should have asked this beforehand, but like how much has the Raptor system cost us? Is like, what's the sub cost?
It's about $20,000 a year that we spend on Raptor.
$20,000 a year?
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit less. It's about between 15 and 20. Okay. It's not quite half, but it's about between 15 and 20. And depending on if they add the attendance module of that, that could change. But right now we don't have that in there.
Have we had the Sherry said 3 years, not 5.
Oh, it says 5 on the.
It says 5 down on the bottom, but 3 up on the term at the top. So
3 year.
Okay, so.
I looked at the bottom.
Can I ask a question to Charity?
Absolutely. Charity is going to answer.
Have you tried this out at any schools and seen it?
Unfortunately, no. That was our intent, but we were put on hold working with Centegix to do that based on the state's RFP for the panic buttons. So we did not get to pilot it like we had thought, but there's more to the situation with Raptor. We were going to have to start getting new equipment anyway, so we figured it was a good time to evaluate that going forward and whatnot. And then this has opportunities to do additional things and help our secretaries out in other ways for somewhat of a cost savings. It will mimic Raptor for the most part. It's not going to look exactly the same, but we hope it provides a better experience for parents in the schools.
And related to that, did I hear that Centegix is on a list that the state has vetted and they feel they're a good vendor to work with?
Yes, Centegix through their panic button process, they included visitor management, so it's now on state contract. Centegix, so what we're mixing a couple of things here with the panic buttons. they are technically, there's 2 providers of the panic buttons that got approved. Both use Centegix systems. One is just a third-party seller of Centegix. So, but yes, through that process, this ended up on state contract and actually allowed us to get an even better price for it.
Lisa? Yeah, I'm curious about, so this price includes the hardware requirements?
Not all of it.
Not all of it. We'll need iPads.
And in some schools, a couple, depending on the size of the location, like high schools may need a couple more. But that was going to be something we had to do with Raptor.
We're on a replacement cycle with the iPads already.
And then my other question is just about data privacy and around, someone asked me about the Raptor system and data privacy, and I didn't really have that answer yet, so I'm asking now. How do we handle data privacy in terms of you're scanning their identification, et cetera?
It follows all of the state laws and state codes.
Thank you.
And therefore, we follow the same state codes. It doesn't store, just for your information, it doesn't store all of their data. Like, it doesn't keep their address or anything in the system. It just keeps like the last 4 of their driver's license number, not even the whole driver's license number. And that's why it's important that they do it each and every time. So we don't store information. That's why we ask them to, regardless, always have their IDs with them.
Okay, thank you for answering that.
I had some constituent email me some questions. Why do we need a new visitor management system, which I think you've already answered? And how much did our current Raptor system cost? You just said $20,000 a year.
About $20,000.
Why are we replacing it so soon?
So the kiosks that are out at the schools, Raptor is still supporting them. They are notoriously causing problems, and we were going to need to get new printers. And they are biting the dust as the days go on. We had to just replace one at Provo Peaks. So that was part of it. And in addition to the, the ability to try to align this with the panic button systems and everything else that occurs. We were going to do this regardless of the panic buttons, but this just is, that's a gimme, a bonus in this situation.
The next question is, what makes this one better or meets our needs more completely? You've already answered that. Will it be the same in every school?
That is our absolute hope. Right now, we have 2 different versions of Raptor going. The kiosks in most schools, the tablet at Wasatch, and
which doesn't work very well.
It's not been working very well right now either, which is another reason that it was time to look at another company. We were trying many of our secretaries' patients as well as parents' patients with the current system.
Yeah, Wasatch, I could never get it. You can't, like, it doesn't scan.
Yeah. And I had them out this summer, and while Raptor has done their best in the last couple of months to help us out, and are giving us until October 1 to use the current system beyond our current contract, and they did try to pull out all the stops. The best decision is to move forward.
So when should this be implemented?
Hopefully by October 1st.
Okay.
Based on your approval, that is.
Does the new system print out like badges still and everything?
It will, and with the attendance component, you added that in there, right? It can also have the availability after we work through some things with the district and other programs that are going on, that it can actually be a tardy slip for students to get to class and help secretaries on the end that way. So we just need to make sure that that can work with our current systems with the safe arrivals, correct. Thank you. We just need to do some work to tie those together. But it does have those availabilities. You may see that they have that in the quote. They will not charge us for that if we do not choose to use that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you for answering all
The
that.
second one is the teacher replacement computers. This is just a 4-year rotation, so this is just to get this year's quota of computers to replace them. So,
And this is already in their budget,
Mhm.
correct?
Yep.
We just approved.
Yep,
Size.
this is just a purchase over 50,000, so.
All right, any questions? All right, we'll be voting on both of those tonight, so if anyone has more comments or questions, we can do that at the business meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn our study session?
I move that we adjourn our study session.
Okay, motion by Board Member Harrison, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Boyce, we are adjourned. We'll begin our business meeting in 5 minutes at the PDC. Or less.